රැස් විහිදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Helpless and forgotten, no more. For the people of Maitrigama in Anuradhapura, a clean drinking water project was declared open, bringing hope to rural Sri Lanka. Gammadda, by the people, for the people.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And very good evening to you. This is Newsline Live. My guest this evening is Attorney at Law and a member of the Moratua Municipal Council from the SJB, Ms. Lihini Fernando. Very good evening to you, Lihini Fernando.
Good evening, Faraz. Pleasure to be in discussion with you yet again.
Thank you very much. Now then, it appears to me that there is some form of resistance to this all-party government. The President has written, he says, to all the members of Parliament, urging them all to come together. So why isn't there a immediate resolution to this, and why don't we have an APG, an all-party government, or words to that effect? Indeed, why is an APG needed in the first place?
See, Faraz, I don't think there is a resistance to the all-party government, but I would say more like, you know, whether there is sincerity in an all-party government is what I think we need to question, because the opposition repeatedly has been saying the importance of having an all-party government, because no one person can resolve this. The crisis, the length and breadth of the crisis is so severe that it needs to be collectively resolved. So there needs to be a team, there needs to be a plan, and mostly there needs to be honesty and the political will to resolve this. So that is why an all-party government is required. But whether everybody out there believes in it, especially the ruling party, and especially the people who actually, you know, whether they actually want to resolve it is also a question. I mean, we saw the President inviting everybody to join an all-party government, but just by sending a letter alone wouldn't do.
Right.
I mean, there needs to be confidence that needs to be built in. There needs to be a, you know, commitment, the honesty, and the President itself must create that environment which will help all other parties to come to one particular platform and discuss. Now, do we see that is questionable?
So what would you like the President to say, apart from come and join us?
No, the President, now we all know the length and breadth of this economic crisis, the loss-making entities, and how, you know, the debt restructuring hasn't happened, how we need to negotiate with the IMF, and how we need to restructure the loss-making entities and to give solutions to the day-to-day problems. So the President must actually put out a plan himself and say, you know, if he is to formulate a cabinet, how the composition of the cabinet is going to be, either, you know, opposition this many seats, ruling party this many seats. If it's an all-party government, how the composition is going to be. Even to this date, we have not seen an economic plan or a recovery plan that has been presented. Now today we saw Honorable Harsha De Silva present in Parliament. I think it's the first time that an opposition MP presented a recovery plan. Now, if there were earlier there was consensus among certain opposition members for this all-party common minimum program. So either President must acknowledge and say, you know, look, we will all drive this program forward if the President is not presenting a counter proposal. So just by inviting alone wouldn't do. A proposal needs to be set out, and not just the opposition but the government also must show that their willingness, that they are truly committed to resolving the crisis, which we don't see.
And would you welcome a situation where the President says, look, I've got 2.5 years to go, but let's just do this for 1 year, and then let's go for elections or whatever it is at the end of that year. Would you welcome us?
Yes, something of that sort. He needs to come and say, look, within the 1 year common minimum program, what he's going to do for the 1 year, either he's going to restructure the state institutions, how he's going to stabilize the economy, and they say, and then say, you know, we need to arrive at political stability. We will go for an election, say 1 year down the line, 6 months or 1.5 years down the line. So right now for us what we see is another political game. One party, the ruling party, thinking how they can prolong their stay in Parliament, how they can go on for the next 2.5 years. Now we see, I mean, the council that I represent, we see the rising up of the local councillors. I mean, how they are taking shielding in this particular President, which is not what the Aragalaya people also said, no? I mean, clearly this particular government, the SLPP government, is responsible for the mess we are in. So the people who created the mess, are they going to be the people who are going to resolve it? Clearly, what I would say is they should not be in the cabinet even. So if the president is sincere in resolving it, he must also, you know, put out and say, you know, you people created this loss, let me resolve it. Because the president is not responsible for the crisis, clearly. I mean, he's here to resolve it. So how sincere is he to resolving it? Or is he shielding them?
But, okay, talking about shielding, how much then of a cloak of responsibility, how much of a cloak of respectability does a person like Ranil Wickremesinghe bring to the Porto, the SLPP?
See, Ranil Wickremesinghe undoubtedly is a veteran politician. If you say, I mean, he will know the law, he will know to play the game within the law. But whether he brings respectability to the SLPP or whether he's bringing shielding to the SLPP is questionable. From what I see is it's a clear shielding which they have, you know, comforted that they can all come out and, you know, I mean, the situation that happened in May, on the 9th of May, today to what they are, they clearly have the shielding to come out, and we see even they are engaged in local politics. So the whole go home and the narrative behind it, the plot of it is lost right now because the political narrative has changed. But what are we fighting for? We are fighting for system change. We are fighting for better governance. We are fighting for a corrupt-free country. Can this president deliver it? Let alone delivering that, can he at least resolve the present crisis by having them on the back on his side?
But you know, talking about an all-party government, I note, of course, that the SJB have said that they don't want to have any portfolios. They're happy to do so from the committees and so on. But really, the implementation part of that is done at cabinet. So what guarantees, what are the legalities involved in trying to sit at committees and then hoping? Is it a question of, well, let's hope for the best, let's hope the cabinet minister does his trick? But if the cabinet minister is from the other side of the political divide, then nothing really much is going to happen, is there?
See, in all fairness to SJB, I think from the time this crisis came up, SJB was one party in parliament who voiced out the extent of this crisis. And even to this date, I can say certain individuals like Harsha and Iran, their house, and Sajid, how sincere they are to resolving the crisis, and they have been talking about it. So whether you want to do it within the cabinet or within party structures or with the cabinet appointed standing committees or whether it's commissions with legitimate power to national, say you can form a national reform commission or a reform ministry. So how the model of it works is debatable, but do they want to be part of reforming the country? Yes, very much. I mean, they have said, even today they put out an economic plan on how which captures important areas like macroeconomic stability to revenue consolidation, state-owned enterprise restructuring, how the social safety nets of the country has to be reorganized, then about trade and industries, and about I mean, revising certain legislatures. So they have presented an economic plan which shows that shows their sincerity towards resolving the crisis. But to what extent does the president and the ruling party welcomes it is questionable.
And do you think that this matter can be resolved very quickly?
I don't think. If there is consensus, if they come to one particular table to discuss and work together, yes, it can be resolved. But again, it will take time. But the longer they take, the more political games that they are in, the more they think about, you know, let me think of my next election and my voter bank, securing it. I mean, we see certain parties in parliament, some parties saying, you know, we don't even want to come to a table to discuss. So, I mean, how sincere are they? I mean, at the end of the day, for us, you're in that parliament because the people have sent you. Whether you want to take your party agenda or whether you want to stand towards championing the needs of the parliament, every politician there has that choice, which they don't seem to exercise. If we saw that, we will see more honest politicians in parliament raising out, even in the ruling party, raising out their concerns on this economic crisis. But they don't. What do they? I mean, they talk about their houses and their burnt houses and lost assets. I mean, even the ruling party, how many speeches have we seen they talking about the crisis and really siding with the people?
Well, it's a great pity, of course, because 62% of Sri Lanka's working population are daily wage. You can't really ask them to wait. Wait for what?
Exactly.
They need money on the table. They need food on the table right now, today, now.
Sadly for us, I mean, out of those 225 in Parliament, I don't know whether they actually understand, apart from the few, I mean, I can say the opposition has been voicing out, but apart from the ruling party, whether they actually understand the length and the breadth of the problem, or are they, you know, looking at the next election about how I can get re-elected or how I can stay on for the next 2.5 years in Parliament and enjoy the perks. I mean, we see there are discussions going on about the next cabinet ministries and the portfolios and how to take the state ministries. Do they even understand that the country doesn't even have the budgets to even run these ministries?
I was going to say, is there the size of the cabinet surely will now be dictated not by political sort of trajectories and ideology, but rather by the amount of actual money that we have.
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, at this point what we need is an economic reform ministry. We need a straight, you know, if we are going for restructuring, all that, we need very consolidated ministries, ministries towards reviving the economy, more opportunities, more new businesses, more new avenues. So what I can say is there are people out there who exactly know what needs to happen. Even there are politicians who knows exactly what needs to happen. There are so many professionals out there who talk about it. Whether how to implement it and whether there's political will to implement it is the question for us, which we all need to question from all of those people. So I think I don't see any sincerity in the ruling party towards resolving this crisis.
But the SJB have made it clear right from the beginning, have they not, that they don't want portfolios? They
have said they don't want portfolios, but I think, you know, it's also, as I said earlier, if how the president also positions it, if the president builds in that confidence, that honesty, that he is genuinely want to resolve it, and you know how he is going to handle the ruling party also, because it can't be like, you know, ruling party having comfort and, you know, they again getting cabinet ministries. That is not what the people are asking. So it is a question of, do you really want to resolve this? Do you really understand the problem in this country? Do you side with the people of this country? I don't think anyone sides. There's a huge gap between those people there who are representing the legislature and the people who are out there. This is also what was the question of the Aragalaya. This is what they were talking for system change. Who represents us? Who represents our interests? Who speaks for us? Who understands our pulse? Who will stand with us? This is a very sad situation for us as a country.
And is it sad that the Aragalaya protest site has now been cleared?
Yes, it is. It was quite heartbreaking. I mean, we were also part of the Aragalaya, and there was a lot of positive vibe there. You know, the narrative there. It was fresh thinking, fresh dimension. There was innovation. There was new avenues of thinking. There was sincerity. There was hope. That is what they were.
There was a lot of unity.
There was a lot of unity. There was no racial disharmony there. Exactly what Sri Lanka should be was reflected and represented there. Sadly, if that can be executed, if that can be put into play, this country will be a far more different place. But it's just that there is a huge gap between the people who rule us, people who make decisions for us, versus the people out there. This gap needs to be bridged. That's where the solution to the problem is.
Collectively, as a nation, would you agree that we need to raise our glasses of water to honor the real Aragalaya people?
Yeah, the real, not the others who, you know, try to
the real peaceful protesters.
Peaceful protesters who are actually sincere to the Aragalaya, not the ones who, you know, wanted to get their political agenda sorted through the Aragalaya, but many who came forward. You must acknowledge them, and that there was the solution to this crisis, and this country was all there. So how do you champion that cause is also something which we need to think about.
Thank you very much for your question. 0772 300 305. Just ahead of a break. Somebody is saying, some say the Aragalaya protesters were paid to disband. Would that be correct?
I cannot comment. I hope not.
Well, we don't have any evidence.
We don't have any evidence because these are all what is shared on social media. But you know, you can't question on the doubt on the sincerity of the Aragalaya. I mean, for an Aragalaya to sustain for a period of 3 months and all that narrative that was shared, there was positivity. But there's
a lot of negativity now when the government appears to be on a witch hunt to try
exactly.
and arrest these people and
by
so
bringing
on and so forth.
emergency law and all of that. I see. At no point do we condone violence and all what happened. You know, those are all wrong. Nobody, you know, even going into state property and acquiring them. That is not the Aragale. Aragale was all about change and bringing that change. So that is what the true Aragale was. And I think the leaders of this country, to an extent, failed to read that also, failed to read the youth's sentiments. They thought the entire Aragale was all about, you know, a politically motivated agenda, which was not. But sad to say that the emergency regulations was brought in and how it ended.
Let's discuss that and, of course, various human rights violations after this short break, in which we take a peek at this evening's headline news.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Pakistan warship PNS Taimur arrives at the port of Colombo. Chinese research and survey vessel back on course towards Sri Lanka. Is the Aragale over? Why was a state of emergency imposed?
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Att-at-Law member of the Municipal Council in Mortua, Lihini Fernando. Now then, an observation from a member of the public. Ranil is between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Possibly.
Is it as bad?
Yes, because he was appointed by a 134 member,
yes,
members of 134 members of one party, so he has to fulfill their agenda.
Yeah.
While at the same time there is the opposition also, who wants to work together to resolve this crisis. So yes, he's stuck between the two, but it's a choice again to him whether he wants to be caught between the two or whether he wants to do the right thing. I remember he's saying at one point he is the friend of the people, and that he's not the friend of the Rajapaksas. So if he's the friend of the people, how will he act being the friend of the people? I mean, he himself exercises the enormous powers of the 20th Amendment.
But he has been forever and a day been a sort of promoter of chopping down the president's powers. So the 19th Amendment.
But whether it will be executed with this parliament, or whether he'll bring a transitional provision and make it effective from the next parliament, we don't know whether that will happen. So
that would be morally distasteful, sure.
Yes, for sure. But you never know what his course of action would be. But at this point, the president can play a huge role towards doing the right thing by the country, towards reforming. But for that, does he want to side with the people who actually brought him to power, or does he want to do the right thing and reform the country? Because reforming the country for us is not an easy thing. You need a team of people. You need to make harsh decisions. So how will he do that? Is a question. So to do that, he needs to have consensus of everybody. He needs to create that platform which welcomes everybody to come together. Will he do that? Is a question.
And could you tell us again, for the benefit of our viewers, and especially several who are asking the same question in essence, which is that what is holding the SJB back from forming a all-party government with this president?
See, I don't think nothing is holding back the SJB. SJB has presented their plan, economic revival plan, on what they want to do, and they went and openly met the president. They said they are willing to support him. But it's just that they can go into the cabinet and they can take portfolios, but it can't be a situation where again it will be the Rajapaksha agendas and the people of the ruling party coming in and taking control of it.
But we do see the Rajapaksas now sort of re-emerging.
Exactly. It's in this country, for us, politics is all about the narrative. No, a good person can be turned a cruel man overnight. So do you want to, I'm not saying it's not being selfish, but it's just, you know, you need to, president on the other hand also must create that platform. You can't just say, you know, come join with me, and then sitting with the people who rejected. People are saying that the government, this government, the SLPP altogether was rejected. I personally think that they should not even enjoy cabinet positions. The recovery of this should be outside them. If there is an all-party government, there needs to be a certain number of splits, saying, you know, this many for the oppositions, this for these parties. He must clearly say, I will give these positions to the JVP, this for the TNA, this for this JV, and make it an all-party. And we don't see that. We are just saying, you know, you come and join. Certain individuals are invited to come and join. But you can't just, then is it like an all-party government, or is it like, you know, you're shuffling the same deck of cards and having the same faces again? Will that be an all-party government?
Most probably not.
Not.
But what, in the meantime, whilst all this talk is going on, the people are kept waiting.
Exactly.
Totally and utterly unfairly.
Exactly.
There is growing concern for the, you know, human rights abuses.
Violations.
There is growing concern about this almost witch hunt for people who went and did sort of little misdemeanors, you know, like I used the presidential flag as a bed sheet, really, and I had this beer mug, and so on.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean that, you know, arson and so on can be forgiven. But do you think it's like a witch hunt that's going on?
Exactly. It's like these kind of things. I mean, people, they must understand why the protesters came out and what was the reason for them to come out. They came out because they were oppressed, because there were issues in the country, and they were voicing for their concerns. I mean, for their children, for their future. The youth came forward for their future. So I mean, at the end of the day, not everybody who are of the same level field and level playing field, and everyone's of not the same knowledge levels. So I mean, people have made certain mistakes. But you know, he can give a common pardon to everybody. And but I mean, not at any point do I condone, you know, violating state property or public property. But you know, these kind of petty things, you know, that is not the name of the game. So you know, we have bigger problems in this country, like resolving the economic crisis. I mean, what about people who you know, damaged the parliamentary property during the 52-day coup? Why isn't law implemented against them? Why? So is it two laws? One law for the people in the parliament and another law for the people outside parliament? This is what people are questioning. The politicians are above, they are on a different pedestal, whereas the people are on a different pedestal.
How myopic do you think the Sri Lankan voter is?
Again, we come down to that for us. All this boils down to the voter. We go for a next election. Will the voter go and vote to the same people, politicians who look after them, look after them, and who distributes? I mean, welfare politics. I mean, you see people before an election coming and distributing. Will voter buying happens? So this is the voter education in this country is a big need at the moment.
Did you hear anything that there was voter buying at Parliament?
I cannot comment.
You can't comment. Well, that's fair. We ask the questions the way we see it. If you can't answer them, you can't answer them.
I hope not.
We hope not. Now then, so what next, Lihini?
No,
the IMF are waiting. The people are waiting. The low amounts of fuel available is being admittedly managed properly.
This is the thing. The crisis will not end just because fuel and gas and everything are given. The crisis is far bigger, and parliamentarians and people who sit in there must understand. They must understand what their obligations, what their responsibilities are, and then they must step up to the occasion, and they must be sincere, and they must be honest. They must be honest by the people of this country, because the people at this point have no other choice. The decision to call for an election is also vested with them. The decision-making power is also vested with them. This is I mean, we have given our franchise to them, and they call the shots, but they must be honest by the people, and they must come together and work together, devoid of politics, devoid of political agendas. It's not about the next election, or it's not about how I will stay in power for the next 2.5 years. It's not about how many more seats I will get in the next election. Everybody must, I mean, you must be honest. At the end of the day, for us, we do the right thing. I mean, you saw, this, no offense, but to the president that was ousted, you saw when you create a crisis and come in, what your final outcome will be. Today, I mean, look at his position. I mean, it is sad. So this is the same plight that every politician out there will also have to go if you don't act in the interest of the people. At the end of the day, we all have a consciousness. Wealth and money is powerless. Power, if you do the right thing, that is what will carry on. Politicians must work towards leaving a legacy at the end of the day. It's not about how much of wealth you leave for your generations.
I think you are mirroring what my late chairman said in a little clip. He said, no matter what, the different lifestyles we lead and the different jobs we do and all sorts of things, no matter what, you cannot let your country down.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying?
It's all about country first. Your country. If you are being given a responsibility, your first thing should be the country. Then should be your people. Your wealth and money and all these things are powerless. At the end of the day, I mean, we are not born to live here forever. You do the right thing by the people. The people will hold you for the rest of their lives, and they will reward you for being a righteous leader. Can we say that these people are righteous leaders by the people of this country, or are they selfish leaders who are there merely for their power? While people today on the road are struggling to meet their rents, how many of them out there feel for the people? This is a very sad and a very sorry situation, and I hope, I mean, if parliamentarians are watching this, at least they will talk to their consciousness and work towards working beyond their party agendas and to come to one particular platform, at least for a year. Then go for an election and then ask for your mandate. They don't think for us, let me do the right thing and people will acknowledge. That is not the culture in this country. The culture in this country is, how do I play my games to make sure I may enjoy my sustenance. If I do the right thing, people will endorse me because I did the right thing. No politician thinks that way. That is why we are in this situation for us, sadly.
Many people sending messages thanking Newsline, and so we'll have to thank our producers, Harshana and Shehan, for having invited you on the program. Many people are saying that they appreciate the openness with which you are speaking.
Pleasure for us.
Thank you very much for that. But what are the chances of us, this government, putting aside all its differences and so on, of delivering something pretty quickly to the people?
I think for us, not that it's not doable. Sri Lanka is not an unfortunate country. I mean, we have all the resources, we have the knowledge, we have the skill, we have the people outside who are willing to assist this country. If there were people who can come to one particular table and act with sincerity towards resolving this crisis, we can come out of this crisis.
But there are so many old fossils in Parliament.
But then there are so many young people out there, professionals also, who can contribute.
But
it's just
I mean, none of these people would want to come in and be associated with these old fossils.
But I think, at the end of the day, we can't reject them because they are there. So we all need to come to one particular place, one particular platform in terms of how we can work together. So when you say when you're at your lowest, it's how you reformulate to come back to your highest. We had many opportunities. We had the war, we had the tsunami, but we never took it. This is a golden opportunity for Sri Lanka to rise again, and we can do that, provided they all work together, provided they all want to work together, provided they take the professionals, the young, come to one particular table, one particular platform, create that environment. I'm sure tomorrow, if the president makes a request for many young people to come and work for this country, they will come. But there needs to be sincerity. Nobody wants to associate when there are political games and when there are half-heartedness, and when your agenda, when you're left with a different agenda, no one wants to side. That is what even the president needs to understand, that if he is honest, if he puts out his plan, at least take the plan what the SJB has presented. If they are all sincere, we can resolve this crisis, and I hope and pray to God that day will come, because people in this country are good people. People don't deserve to suffer like this for us.
Lihini Fernando, it's been marvelous having you on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faraz. Pleasure talking to you.
We appreciate your presence. Thank you. That's the way it was on Newsline for this week. We'll see you again on Monday evening, when we'll have another great guest on the lines of Lihini. Okay? Take care. Have a great weekend. And it's not all doom and gloom, is it? We must keep smiling. Take care, and as always, God bless you all.